Students, hope you all are doing well. So, in our last video, we talked about the modes of nutrition in plants, the two modes, autotrophic and heterotrophic modes. We also talked about the materials required during photosynthesis. We also talked about the products that are released during photosynthesis, reduced during photosynthesis. Also, we discussed some tests, that is, carbon dioxide is necessary for the process of photosynthesis, etc. So we'll continue with the same chapter, and today we will discuss about the heterotrophic nutrition. Okay. So the nutrition in plant is a chapter, part 2. Heterotrophic nutrition in plants. Though mostly plants are autotrophic, but some are heterotrophic. So, like we know that plants have the tendency of preparing their own food through the process of photosynthesis, but there are certain plants which depend on some other sources of food, and thus they are called as heterotrophic. These plants, the heterotrophic plants, cannot prepare their own food, thus they depend upon another sources of food. Okay, so the heterotrophic plants, they cannot prepare their own food, thus they depend on another sources of food, and that is why they are called as heterotrophs. Organisms that show heterotrophic mode of nutrition are called heterotrophs. So the organisms, be it a plant or an animal, which depend on another modes of nutrition, which cannot synthesize its own food, they are called as heterotrophs. Now we'll see what are the categories under the heterotrophic plants. There are parasitic plants, there are saprophytic plants, there are insectivorous plants, and there are symbiotic plants. So today we will talk about parasitic plants and insectivorous plants in specific. Now the parasitic plants. We'll talk what are parasitic plants, how do they function, why they are called as parasites. Okay. An association between two organisms in which one is benefited at the cost of other is called parasitism. Okay, like when two organisms are living together, they are linked with each other, they are living in association, they're performing their functions, but only one is benefited, the another one is harmed. That phenomenon is called as parasitism, and the organism which depend on another organism is called as parasite. Now, the organism that depends upon another organism is called a parasite. The organism which depends on another organisms for its food and nutrition purposes, it is called a parasite. And the organism on which the parasite depends is called a host. Now, I'll give you one example. Suppose we have guests visiting us in a family. So the guests depend on us once they enter our home, once they visit our place, they depend on us. So we are the host. So in like once we are considering in plants, the host body or the host organism is the organism on which the parasite depends. Okay. In parasitism, the parasite derives its nutrition from the host plants and often harms it in its process. Now, mostly what happens in parasitism, the parasites, what do they do? They derive their nutrition from the host plant. They suck their nutrition from the host plant, and in most of the cases, they tend to harm it because they suck their nutrition from them. Now, there are two specific types of parasites. One is partial parasite, and another category turns out to be obligate parasites. So let's study what are partial parasites and what are obligate parasites. Partial parasites. The parasitic plants which can perform photosynthesis but depend upon host for water and minerals. Now, partial parasites are what? They are the plants which have chlorophyll present in them, which can perform the photosynthesis process, but they depend on another. They depend on the host body for water and mineral needs. They are also, because they're partially dependent, they are not dependent for the whole nutrition, they are also called as semi or hemi parasites. The example of it is mistletoe. The example So the example of partial parasite is a mistletoe. Now we'll talk about obligate parasites. This term seems to be very much non-familiar with you. So let's see what obligate parasites are. The parasitic plants that totally depend on the host for sugar, mineral and water. Obligate parasite, they are the plant organisms, they are the plant parasites which totally depend on the host body for their nutritional needs. They cannot synthesize their own food, so they depend on the host body for their nutritional needs, unlike partial parasites. The example of obligate parasite is Cuscuta. Now, partial parasite is shown here. This is the image of a mistletoe plant, and this is Cuscuta plant. Okay. Now we'll study certain more peculiar features of parasites. Some parasitic plants have modified roots called as postoria. Some plants, because through roots they gain all the nutrition and mineral needs. They fulfill their nutritional and mineral needs. So they have modified roots called postoria. And what does this postoria do is, it penetrates the host plant to connect the phloem and suck the food from the host plants, and thus are called as sucking roots also. So postoria, what it does is, it penetrates the host body and connects to the phloem. Now we know that phloem is the vascular bundle, vascular tube, which transports food and nutrition from leaves to the all part of body. So they connect to the phloem and suck all its nutrition of food and take it up. And they are, because they suck it, they are also called as sucking roots. Parasitic plants affect the growth of variety of crop and cause huge damage and huge loss in economy if not controlled. Now, what do they do? Parasitic plants, they have the tendency of competency. So they grow, they are not cultivated mostly, so they grow randomly, and because they depend on the host plant, so host plant is the healthy plant which can do all its function. It can be the crop also. So what do they do? Because they depend on they suck all the nutrition out of the host plant and affect the health of the host plant. So it can cause huge loss in economy if they're not controlled or put a check upon. Now we'll talk about the carnivorous plants or the insectivorous plants. Why we call them as carnivorous plants? Because they eat insect, and insect is an animal. So some plants derive nutrients by trapping and consuming insects, and thus are called as insectivorous plants. So there are some plants which trap the insects and derive nutrition from them. They are called as insectivorous plants. They generally grow in nutrient deficient soil, especially nitrogen. Okay. The insectivorous plants, they generally tend to grow in nutrient deficient soil. It means that where they grow, there is deficiency of certain nutrients, and that nutrient specifically most of the time is nitrogen. These plants are able to carry out photosynthesis, but the absence of nitrogen is a hurdle. So they obtain nitrogen by trapping the insect. What do they do? These plants, the insectivorous plants, they have the potential, they can carry out the process of photosynthesis easily, but the absence of nitrogen, because the plants cannot take nitrogen from the soil, right? So the absence of nitrogen is a hurdle which hampers the growth and development, obviously. So what do? They trap the insects, derive nutrient like nitrogen from them, and then they grow. They show different adaptations to capture the insects. So there are different types of insectivorous plants which have different methodologies to capture the insects, to trap the insects. We'll see how. This picture, I think you might have seen it somewhere, or you might have heard about it. Yes, this is the pitcher plant. We'll see the specific features of the pitcher plant and how does it traps the insect. Pitcher plant have leaves shaped like a jar. You can see these are the leaves which are shaped like a jar. It has a cavity in it. The cavity formed by the jar-shaped leaves is filled with nectar and attracts the insect. So the leaves, these leaves, they are filled with nectar. It is filled with fluid, and you know that insects go to different plants and suck nectar out of it. Okay, so the nectar present in the jar, it attracts the insect, and see what happens. The inside part of the leaf is very smooth and slippery and has hair-like structures in the rim, at the rim. So at the top, at the rim part, there are very fine hair-like structures which are very sensitive. And let's see how they trap it. The hair-like structure close once they get disturbed by the movement of insects, and thus the insect gets trapped inside. So insects, they come in greed of having nectar. They come and they sit on the rim. Now rim have fine hair-like structures which are very sensitive. So once they sense a small movement, a bit of movement, the flap over the jar rim gets closed and the insect is trapped inside. The wall is very smooth, the inner lining is very smooth, so the insect slides down and there's digestive juices present at the bottom of the jar, and thus the insect gets digested and nutrient like nitrogen is extracted out of it. So at the bottom of the jar, it is filled with a fluid containing digestive juices, and thus the insect is digested. Now we'll talk about yet another plant, insectivorous plant called the sundew plant. You can see small tentacle-like structure on the leaf of it. Sundew plants have numerous tentacles with drops of sticky substance at their ends. You can see some drops which look like water droplets. Okay, we'll see what do they do. The insect gets stuck and entangled in the sticky substance. So if I'll give you an example. If you would have used hairbrush, once you comb your hair with a hairbrush, the hair gets entangled in them sometimes, and it is very hard to get your hair out of it. In the same manner, once the insect comes and sits on the tentacles, the sticky substance, it captures and then the flap gets closed. The tentacles, they twirl inside, they clasp itself inside, and then the insect is eventually trapped and digested. Now we'll talk about the third insectivorous plant in specific, which is Venus flytrap. Now, flytrap means what? Fly is an insect. You can consider it as fly is an insect, and trap is a trap basically to prey the insect. Okay, insect is the prey. So trap, it is a trap to trap the insect. Okay, to capture the insect. So the inner surface of the trap has short, stiff hairs which trap the insect when it touches the hair by shutting the two halves of the leaves. So it literally works in a very interesting way. I'll give you an example. What do we do when some mosquito bothers us? We tend to close our hands, clap our hands this way, and thus the mosquito dies. In the same manner, when the insect comes near the tentacles or the inner surface of the leaves, the two halves of the leaf, the two flaps, they get closed, and thus the insect is trapped. And after the insect is trapped, it is digested, and eventually the nutrition is derived out of it. So this was all about today's topic. We talked about parasitic plants in specific, the two types of parasitic plants, partial parasites and the obligate parasites. The example of partial parasites, the specific features, how do they derive nutrition from another plant, called the host plant, and we talked about the carnivorous or the insectivorous plants. What are the specific features? What are the nutrient needs? And what are the, we talked about three specific insectivorous plants, the pitcher plant, sundew plant, and the Venus flytrap. How do they trap the insects and digest it and use it for their own nutrition? So this was all about today's topic. We'll continue this chapter in the next video. Thank you. Have a great day.